up right now.
Cool. I was just saying how we should ban Karina. Oh, sorry, we're on.
How what, Karina?
I said that we were going to ban her.
Oh
Just
my
kidding,
gosh.
Karina.
She's the last one to ever get banned.
My mother will be the first if she comes back.
Oh, Donna did all right. I didn't even know till it was almost over.
Yeah, but she wants to come back, and if we ever start telling stories, I don't want to reveal some stories.
Yeah, that's fair.
There we
go. All right, what time is it? Cool. So wait a few minutes, and then we'll go. We're going to try the voice channel tonight and see if that works. I tested it. I played around with it. Everybody enters with their mic automatically on. And so as people come in, I'll just mute everybody, and you guys can mute too. I'm pretty sure you have the ability to. And then we'll just unmute for people to talk because we're having that extremely obnoxious issue. And then see how that goes. I can still like share the screen, and you can still turn on video and whatnot. So I don't even really see how it's that different. I think it's just the hand raising. I think that is it.
I think we're pretty civil.
I think so, for the most part.
No.
It's here. Okay. When we go into that, have either of you ever seen the Whatever podcast?
I have like bits and pieces, but
like clips that get passed around and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I watch it religiously. I genuinely don't know why, because I don't really watch anything just for entertainment, but I watch that hard, and they're super long, so it's such a waste of time. But he'll have like total people of the world, where most of the people are like involved in corn type stuff on one side, and then he'll have a couple of people who are just like super based and traditional on the other side of the table, and just listening to these people just go back and forth about like culture and society and ideologies and what's right and what's wrong. It's super interesting. But there's this group of Christians on it, and so there's a clip that kind of coincides with the lukewarm thing, so I'm going to play that and see what you guys think about it, because it was really interesting. But I feel like that's what we're talking about when we talk about lukewarm. This woman was like the perfect representation of kind of where my mind goes. It was really interesting. All right, let's see.
Oh my.
56 minutes.
Yeah, right. When you started the call, I was taking dinner out of the oven to be ready. So.
Are you going to be eating away?
No, I'll wait until later. I need to eat better. I don't eat right.
No?
Time wise.
Oh, time wise, okay.
I love breakfast food. I don't eat breakfast. So I don't really eat anything until like 3:00.
What?
Usually sometimes I don't get hungry until then.
Oh.
And then so I eat a snack at 3, then eat dinner, and then have like a before bedtime bowl of cereal or something.
That sounds awful and very hungry.
It's very awful. It's shoving all my food into 8 hours or yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's intermittent fasting, right? So you're kind of doing a technique. It's called intermittent fasting, yeah. You pick like between 5 and 8 hours to eat all your food, and then you fast the rest of the time.
Look at me.
Yeah, you're killing it. Absolutely killing it.
Well, then I can tell you it doesn't help weight-wise.
Well, what are you eating? Is it garbage?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. That'll do it. Oh, Maze. Oh, nice. She doesn't work on Thursday anymore.
4 hours of eating? Do you have the devil lettuce along with your drink there?
Oh my gosh. I feel like if you had that, you'd be eating 24 hours. Constant eating. All right, 6:05. Let's get rolling.
Jill, you've never heard it called the devil lettuce?
Oh, don't play. You know what that is. Everybody knows what that is. Yeah, there you go.
What you got?
There you go. Oh shoot, I just lost everything. All right, I'm gonna flip y'all off.
That's not nice.
You're right. I didn't really think about how that was coming out, actually. All right, cool. Did you guys read it?
Yeah.
Did you? Was there anything before we start? Was there anything that kind of stood out?
I put my notes once again on my phone, which is my camera.
Okay. So
I mean, not till after you read, maybe, but just kind of the how like people helped Paul and Barnabas. Like, every time they were about to get attacked or something, they found out. But I noticed how like God didn't do it, like interject. It was people that did it. So it's kind of like I don't know. I'd written a few notes down, but I thought it was interesting that like it's not that they didn't need God anymore, but like maybe that was maybe when the signs and miracles started slowly fading away. Maybe
yeah,
it's like people were helping people. I don't know.
yeah. No, I like that a lot. Yes, it's a big spot where you do start to see that, where you see a lot of God's interaction with the world begin to be through people and not so much direct contact. Interesting how Paul was stoned but got back up. That's an ironic topic correlation. They're talking about the devil's lettuce and Paul being stoned. But I know what you mean. Yes, there are references to Paul's literal stoning. Here, reference to 2 Corinthians as well.
Well, how did like he got stoned and then hopped up? Like, how did that when he came back? How did those people not be like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think like it's not described like he got stoned to death. He was just like brutally injured is what it
they saw no life or something.
What's that?
No, supposing he was dead.
Yes, yeah. So it was just like very brutal stoning. The strength he had, yeah. Paul was he was something else, man. All right, well, let's roll. It's a fairly short chapter 14. Paul and Barnabas at Iconium. Now at Iconium, they entered together into the Jewish synagogue and spoke in such a way that a great number of both Jews and Greeks believed. Iconium is located in the central region of modern-day Turkey, about 90 miles southeast of Pisidian, which is Antioch. Verse 2. But the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles and poisoned their minds against the brothers. So they remained for a long time, speaking boldly for the Lord, who bore witness to the word of his grace, granting signs and wonders to be done by their hands. 4. But the people of the city were divided. Some sided with the Jews and some with the apostles. That reference to the apostle, when it's normally used in Acts, it's a reference to the 12. However, here it is a sole reference to Paul and Barnabas alone. Verse 5, when an attempt was made by both Gentiles and Jews with their rulers to mistreat them and to stone them, they learned of it and fled to Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia, and to the surrounding country. And there they continued to preach the gospel. So Lycaonia, cities, Lystra and Derbe, these cities were respectively 18 miles south and 55 miles southwest of Iconium. So that is a great, great distance And this, again, like Acts gives you the geography for Paul's mission. Other people too, but primarily Paul. And 55 miles back in the day is a lot. Like to us, that's absolutely nothing. But 55 miles for them was a very, very long time. Was this Dean? I was wondering, will theology forums be back up? No.
I was about to
100%
answer.
no. Not ever, not doing it. And I'll explain that if you guys remind me again when we're done. But no, the Discord is the new theology forums, and it's very well kept. So none of the bad behavior and poor Christianity that was being produced on theologyforums.com is ever going to seep into the Discord. But yeah, simple answer is absolutely not. Paul and Barnabas at Lystra. Now at Lystra, there was a man sitting who could not use his feet. He was crippled from birth and had never walked. Verse 9, he listened to Paul speaking, and I'm sorry, heads up too, I'm sick again. So if I sound gross, that's why. And Paul, looking intently at him and seeing that he had faith to be made well, verse 10, said in a loud voice, stand upright on your feet. What does that remind you of? That event, that in its totality. We saw it earlier in Acts. It was kind of like a pivotal moment for the early mission of the church.
What was it, the blind guy?
Yeah.
With Paul?
The very public healing of. It's meant to kind of be kind of cause a scene. It's meant to be so impactful that it causes a scene. But yeah, it's a similar miracle that we saw in chapter 3. So stand upright on your feet, and he sprang up and began walking. Verse 11. And when the crowd saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying, Laconiconian, the gods have come down to us in the likeness of men. So they assume these men are gods because of what they're seeing them do. And this culture is used to gods, lowercase, gods, plural, not used to what they're selling. So they're going to kind of try to set them straight here. Verse 12, Barnabas, they called Zeus, and Paul Hermes, because he was the chief speaker. So Zeus was the head god of the pantheon in Greek mythology. Everybody's kind of familiar with Zeus, but it's more of like a cartoon image that I feel like most modern people kind of get in their head. But Zeus was a real god. It was super heavy in Greek mythology. So the crowd here is trying to understand Barnabas as Zeus because they're viewing Barnabas as the leader of their little godly duo that they have going on right there. Zeus would be considered pagan mythology. It would be considered pagan. And then Hermes was the Greek deity, in charge of, he was like a messenger. So he would take messages from here to there. And they were godly messages. They were of significant meaning, and they were a significant message. So since Paul was the speaker, he was the one that was talking usually publicly. He had that gift. That was his call. The people assumed that he was a kind of incarnation of Hermes. So you've got a lot of paganism going on here. Verse 13, and the priest of Zeus, whose temple was at the entrance to the city. So they had a physical temple where Zeus was being praised and worshipped. So it makes sense that their minds are on these gods because these are gods that they regularly worship or at least pay homage to in some way. Brought oxen and garlands to the gates, wanted to offer sacrifice with the crowds. 14, but when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of it, they tore their garments. Do you guys know anywhere else where they tear their garments? Is Mystic in the chat? Is she here? Because she'll know. Mystic, where do you know about the tearing of the garments? You better be paying attention. Because I know you know. Do you have one, Drew? Can you think of one?
Oh, no.
It happens a few times. You read about it at least once or twice in the New Testament, but there's one very iconic.
Like when they cast lots, didn't they tear clothes?
So I'll give you the context. This is a Near Ancient Eastern cultural practice to show extreme distress, emotional, heartfelt distress. But the big one that most people remember, naked I come into the world, naked I will return. Blessed be Mystic's not paying attention. It's out of Job. So this is something that Job did that was super iconic when he was going through all the trials between the dark. Yeah, Jill. Yes. Between he was in that kind of other realm, otherworldly spiritual pole between evil and good, between the enemy and God. And at one of his super low points, he tears his clothes off and is like, naked I came into this world, naked I shall return. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Like praying and praising God, even through all of that suffering. But he tore his garments as a sign of severe distress. So it's that. It's a super cultural thing that they would do to show distress. So Paul and Barnabas tear their garments, very emotional, very heavy thing to do, and rushed out into the crowd crying, verse 15, men, why are you doing these things? We also are men of like nature with you, and we bring you good news, that you should turn from these vain things to a living God. That living God description, Paul and Barnabas are distinguishing the God of the Jews, the God of Israel, God that they knew as Yahweh, this living God, this God that is meant to or taught to come and live inside of the people, to distinguish that God from what they're used to, which would be these pagan gods like Zeus and Hermes. These pagan gods that, again, the Corinthian church was a part of, the church at Galatia was a part of. It was culture everywhere. So they're using that as a descriptive differentiator between the God that they are pushing and the gods that this culture is very akin to, they're very used to. Who made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them? Verse 16, in past generations, he allowed all the nations to walk in their own ways. That is a reference to the Old Testament. So God, if you think about it, very rarely, if ever, intervened in any of the actions, behaviors, paganism, all throughout the Old Testament. He kind of stayed out of it. Israel was the only group of people that he was intimately or really at all involved with. The other cultures, the other religions, the other practices, he allowed them to all follow their desires. He allowed them to dig their own ditch, and he kind of just let it be. So Paul's explaining it. He's explaining it so they understand that this is something that God allowed to happen. But Israel was the nation that God was close to, he cared for, and that now in Acts, we have this big push for Israel, current day, to come to the living God through Jesus Christ. All the nations to walk their own ways. 17, yet he did not leave himself without witness. For he did good by giving you rains from the heaven in fruitful season, satisfying your hearts with food and gladness. 18, even with these words, they scarcely restrained the people from offering sacrifice to them. So, in other words, what they said didn't do much. The culture was a little bit set, so they were having a hard time getting them to understand what they were trying to tell them. Paul stoned at Lystra, but Jews came from Antioch and Iconium, and having persuaded the crowds, they stoned Paul and dragged him out of the city. So that this stoning is what we'll read about in 2 Corinthians. It's what's referenced in 2 Timothy. This is the stoning, supposing that he was dead. 20. But when the disciples gathered around him, he rose up and entered the city. And on the next day, he went on with Barnabas to Derbe. 21. When they had preached the gospel to the city and had made many disciples, they returned to Lystra and to Iconium and to Antioch, strengthening the souls of the disciples, encouraging them to continue in the faith, and saying that though many tribulations, we must enter through many tribulations, we must enter the kingdom of God. So verses 21 through 28 here. So continuing down. After this very short stop in Derbe, Paul and Barnabas are concluding the first mission, this first geographical journey. The dates they've got is AD 46 through 47, which is, I think, is fairly accurate, but it's obviously hard to say for sure. By retracing their steps now, they're strengthening all of these newly founded churches that they had. So they kind of went in a circle. And then on the way back through the circle, they're checking on churches and kind of seeing how they're doing. So think of this as like a physical epistle all of Paul's epistles are basically him checking on and then putting in check these churches that he either planted or was a part of planting. But here earlier on, him and Barnabas actually went back through physically and checked on a lot of these churches to see how they were doing since they had departed them. Verse 24, Paul and Barnabas return to Antioch in Syria. Then they passed through Pisidia and came to Pamphylia. 25, and when they had spoken the word in Perga, they went down to Attalia. 26, and from there they sailed to Antioch, where they had been commended to the grace of God for the work they had fulfilled. 27, and when they arrived and gathered the church together, they declared all that God had done with them and how he had opened a door of faith to the Gentiles, and they remained no little time with the disciples. And they remained no little time with the disciples, so they kept moving. Okay, actually, I'm going to wait. I've got something I want to talk about. We're going to wait a little bit. So did you have something, Drew, or did you have notes, or did we talk about it already?
Pretty much. I had, when it said they were commended to the grace of God for work they had fulfilled, was that commended by like the people of Antioch or
disciples? So here, when they gathered disciples about, or no, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place.
26.
Yeah, so they sailed to Antioch when they had been commended to the grace of God for the work they had fulfilled. Yeah, so this is them returning to Antioch. So in Antioch at this time, because it was one of the places that we started at, when they circle back, this is where a large group of believers was.
Okay.
So contextually, it's probably them.
Okay. I figured it because a lot of people tried to stone him there, so I just didn't know who was commending him.
Yes, no.
I mean, I figured it probably wasn't them, but
I mean, maybe, but probably not. Yeah. I think those people are lost.
Verse 14, you had a lot to say about that, which is really cool. In my study Bible, it doesn't mention 14 at all. For tore their garments, the note says, contrast the response of Herod. That's all it says.
In 14, in the verse, is your study Bible a Bible too, or is it just a study Bible?
It's a Bible too.
Yeah. And it doesn't have that verse at all?
Well, no, it has 14, like, but when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard it, but like the notes down at the bottom, like it's got, a bunch of notes.
Yeah.
14, it has nothing. It just says contrast the response of Herod.
Interesting. Does it say tore their garments at least?
Yeah, it says tore their garments,
okay.
And that's all it says about it.
That's odd. Usually they'll at least include the reference down there.
No, the reference section doesn't reference anything except for Genesis 37.
Man, this is why it varies so much. It varies so much. But if you open the first couple pages of Job, it's smack dab in the middle right there. Jill, they stayed for a while and then they kept moving. So and if I said it differently, I'm sorry, but it says very clearly no little time, which means a long time. But then after that, they kept moving, meaning it wasn't the end of their journey. It was like a pit stop. So they came back with a large group of believers, seemingly to kind of touch base again after they had gone around, touch base with all these other smaller churches that they had a part of planting. Now they're staying with kind of this more of like a main group of believers that were there more towards the beginning of it, and then they moved on. First time I read this, I read it wrong and thought he was killed, and the story ended so soon. Yeah, no, he's not dead. He is alive and well. Otherwise, the New Testament would be much smaller. Much, much smaller. All right, did I miss anything up here? Do you guys know? No? Okay. Daniel. Oh, those were guesses. Got it. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot here, other than Paul's stoning. That's probably the biggest thing.
I guess my not answer. Karina put, how could Paul tell he had faith to be healed? Like, how could Paul tell that the lame man, like, how did Paul see that the lame man had so much faith and could heal him, I guess?
It's a good question. Let me see real quick. Matthew 9:2. There might be an answer.
just feel like they were preaching for a long time, and I probably just got a feeling in his head, and maybe it was God talking to him, and figured he was like, "Well, I'll give it a chance. Stand up," and it worked. I don't know.
Yeah, the note that I have is garbage, honestly. So I would kind of go the same way. There's obviously no context to know for sure, but this is something they've been doing. So one, it's not new, and two, I would assume that God is involved in some way.
I just wonder if are there any mentions in the Bible of like when they tried to do something like that and it didn't work?
Say again?
Are there like anything where they were like, stand up and like it didn't work?
Not in the Bible.
Wasn't healed. Okay.
No, not in the Bible. Did that happen though? That's a better question. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure people tried and it didn't work, but that's a tough thing, man. You just don't know.
It's not noteworthy.
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to write that down. Let's be real. They're going to omit that.
All right, I'm done. Sorry.
Shannon, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're good. You're just quiet up there.
Sorry, I'm actually reading part of my study Bible that you referred to me. So.
Oh yeah, you
I'm
said that.
What you're saying, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jill, what about Daniel 9?
I could Google it much faster.
Is 9 short? Can I just read it? No. Sure is not. Sackcloth and ashes. What verse are you in? And why? Or maybe I missed something. Am I just dumb? Did you say something else?
No, I don't think you missed anything.
What are you getting at, Jill? Help me out.
Jill's tipsy over there. Weebles wobble, but Jill's fall down.
Weeble wobble. Isn't that a toy or something?
Yeah, that's why I said Weebles wobbles, but don't fall down, but Jill will.
Oh, tearing of the garments. She got another reference. I'm telling you, it's at least a couple times in the New Testament, and it's at least a couple times in the Old Testament. It was a common thing. It was like a very dramatic thing in near ancient Eastern culture. Let me get the Job here. Yeah, so it's in chapter 1, and it's when Job says, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. There the Lord gave, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." So it's as he's going through this emotional turmoil, he says that very, I feel like it used to get used a lot. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. That used to be like a way Christians would justify like kids dying and horrible things happening. I feel like that doesn't happen much anymore. I feel like they've kind of let that one go.
Isn't there more to it? Or no?
Yeah, there's more to the verse. Yeah. But that was the part that they used was pastors would tell you, like, if your kid just died of cancer or something, well, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. It's like, no, we don't really have any evidence whatsoever that says God comes and kills children. That one I'm gonna have to theologically argue with you about, but I feel like this kind of gone away as Christianity has shifted. Dean, did that work? I hope that worked. I think you can also sign up with a phone number though. Yeah, you don't learn a lot in Sunday school. It's funny when you read like kids' Bibles too, because beautiful. I'm glad it worked, Dean. What was I saying? Kids' Bibles. They'll omit certain violent sections. They'll take certain verses out that have to do like things regarding Babylon are taken out of a lot of kids' Bibles. It's kind of funny. We're getting right up to the Babylon portion, my daughter and I, in the comic book Bible that we're reading. So I'm curious to see what they leave in and what they take out. I think immediately Joel 2:13 with the sackcloth reference. Didn't even think Job. God likes contrite hearts and godly sorrow over worldly sorrow, that everyone can see how grieved someone is. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a beautiful thing. It's kind of an odd thing because you're naked at the end of it, but it's kind of a beautiful act. I mean, Passover. What did I miss? Passover.
Yeah, no, I was about to ask. And yet, Dean, if you made it into the Discord, there's a section where you can a theology section. You can put in questions like that, and Joe would maybe answer.
Did I miss something?
Probably. No, Dean just said, I don't know if the virgin conception should be discussed. Honestly, I mean, yeah, maybe not. I mean, unless you want to do it right now, but
That's.
He just joined the Discord, I think. So we'll tell him he could put it in there, and
Oh yeah,
possibly be a topic.
Yeah, for sure. So I was thinking about it, and some of these after discussions that we have, one topic definitely fills the whole time. But I feel like every once in a while we should do kind of like a rapid fire one, because the virgin conception can only be talked about for 10 or 15 minutes. You can't really go that deep. It's kind of like it either happened or it didn't. And there's really no evidence in either direction. So you can throw some conjecture out, but it's not something you can argue with any sources or anything. It would be interesting to see that verse in Job printed in a pithy way on a shower, naked I wasn't. That would actually be pretty great.
I want that.
I like that. Yeah. I need to make that.
They would not, just don't give it to elderly people, because they fall and they might return in the shower. So
that's true. That would be ironic and not funny.
Naked
they return.
Naked.
As God intended. The comic book Bible is cool, man. My kid loves it. It's super easy to kind of get general ideas and people's names and stuff like that across to kids with it. She said, no, that's very funny. You're dark, Mystic. You are a dark one. But that's also why you're lovely and fun. So. All right. Well, anything else here, or should we just move it along? It's 6:30. I need to be off around 7:30. Oh, I know that. Don't worry. I know that. So, for anybody who wasn't here at the very beginning when I was talking about it, we are not doing the stage tonight. So, in the events tab, you can go directly to the correct channel from there. Or under the Bible study, it's directly under the stage. It says voice event. We're doing that instead. Keep in mind, the minute you click that, your mic is live. So don't say anything you don't want to go out. But as soon as you join, you can mute yourself. And even if you don't, we will be muting everybody as they come in. Once you come in, if you want to be unmuted and you want to speak and you're ready to speak, then throw it in the chat in that channel. It works the same way as the chat in the stage, and then we'll know who to unmute. And we'll probably do one at a time. We just got to try this because the stage has been absolute garbage in getting people the ability to talk at all. Karina, you need to get Discord. She also has to put her kid to bed, though, like always at the end of these.
Yeah.
We got to get her in there, though. Karina, times are changing. You got Discorded up. There's a tutorial and everything. I redid the tutorial. We'll get you eventually. All right.
We'll learn.
What?
No, I was going to say we'll learn new things about it.
We will totally learn new things. I want to hear Karina just go off one day.
I know. I
Just
feel like if we're
lose
all
it.
having a really bad day, we could just listen to her talk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. just joy and peace and light. All right, I'm gonna hang up on you guys. Okay, everybody on YouTube, we're out. Go to Discord. You'll see everybody kind of